Rucham Abon B'Shem Hashem, B'Shem Irgun Shir Torah. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Zev Smith on Shabbos Chanukah and Halacha. Halacha's Ner Chanukah, Be'erev Shabbos, B'Motzei Shabbos, Kodesh. Dr. Grace List sponsoring a shir. Call Irgun Shir Torah 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Harav Smith.
Erev Shabbos, Ner Chanukah has its own unique shilas. First of all, what's the earliest time to light? We had a shilah once about a Matzoi Shabbos. We're having Sheva Brachas. Do you have to rush Al Shudas to light Matzoi Shabbos right by this man? If you're lighting in Shul on Friday and no one's there yet, can you make a bracha Erev Shabbos Chanukah? And as we'll see, a host of questions regarding the Shabbos Chanukah, the Erev Shabbos, the Matzoi Shabbos, regarding the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah. And as we'll see, it's unique because as the truth is, as we'll see, that the Zmanim of Erev Shabbos and Matzoi Shabbos are fundamentally different. Let me explain. To refresh your memory, the Zman of Ner Chanukah, the Gemara says, Misha Tishka Chama, Ad Shetichla Regel Min Hashuk. That's the Zman of Ner Chanukah. What does it mean, Tishka Chama? Shkiyas Chama. So there are many shittas that hold that the right time to light Ner Chanukah is Shkiyas Chama, Tchila Shkiyah. I'm just going to choose a time, even though it's inaccurate, but just L'Sabra Sa'oizen. Rav Moshe says that 10 minutes after Shkia is the right time to light Ner Chanukah. So let's assume 4:40 is the early Zman for Ner Chanukah. Okay, again, it's not accurate, some Durbaran Zman. I'm just using it to keep a number that we can relate to. Now that's one Shita. But there's another Shita, and that's the Shita of the Mechaber and Shulchan Aruch, that Soif Shkia Sachama. Not the beginning of Shkia, when it's Laila, Tzeisa Kechavim. And again, I'm going to use the time inaccurate, but just to make it easier to relate to. The minig of Svardim and most Chassidim is to light Tzeis approximately 5:45. So those are the two, different Zmanim. The Shulchan Aruch cautions in Tafresh Ayin Bey, Sif Aleph, Leima Achir, Leima Akdimim. Don't forget, like every other mitzvah, you have to keep to the Zman. You can't light too early or light too late. The Goyin was very makbid in Maiserav Simaresh Lamed Hey, and after the half hour, you can't make a bracha. That's how important this man is. Okay, Baruch Hashem for us, Taisvis, and that's the Shita of the Ramah and Tafresh Ayin Beis, Siv Beis, that since today we light, for the Bnei Habayis, we light indoors, not outside, so the Zmanim are not that important, you can light later. Okay, L'maiserav, the Ramah does caution, Toiv Lizor Gam Bizman Hazeh. So we do have leeway as far as the Soif Zman, but no doubt about it, the Zman is a Zman. L'chatchila, even the Ramah says, you must try at least to light, Zriz and Magdimin to light in the right time. So we have two Zmanim, 4:40 and 5:45, those are the Zmanim. Now, Doik V'Tishkach, Erev Shabbos Chanukah, this coming Friday, Bo'aleinu L'Toiva, nobody does it right. No one lights 5:45, that's Shabbos, and even 4:40 is already 10 minutes after Shkia. So the Chol HaDeis, we're violating Loi Magdimin. It doesn't sound right. Plus, we have the Noshim today are lighting not just 15 or 18 minutes before Shkia, but there are different Hagim to make early Shabbos and earlier Shabbos, and so they light, let's say, at 4 o'clock even. So you have to light 10 minutes before 4. Like the Goyin, it's almost 2 hours earlier than the right Zman. Let's say like for the Shita of the Shulchan Aruch, it's 2 hours before the earlier Zman. Matzoi Shabbos, as we'll soon see, also no one lights in the right time. So it's a pliya. 2 days of the 8 days of Chanukah, we don't keep the right Zman. And if you have 2 Shabbos days Chanukah, 3 out of the 8 days, over 35% of the time, we're lighting the wrong Zman. What's going on here? How could you light so early on Erev Shabbos Chanukah? So what comes to mind is the famous Heta, we call it the Heta the Plag. The Shulchan Aruch that I mentioned after saying Loi Magdima, Loi Ma'achrin, the Shulchan Aruch does add Yesh Misha Oima, it's not L'chol HaDeis, but there is a Shita that if a person has an Oinus, he could light from Plaga Mincha onward. And again, Plaga Mincha imprecisely, I'm just choosing a number, approximately 3:15. It's an hour and a quarter before Shkia. So the Shulchan Aruch does sanction lighting from Plaga Mincha approximately 3:15. Now this is a major extension. So instead of lighting 4:40 or 5:45, you could even start at 3:15. But that's not so good as it seems. Because first of all, the Shulchan Aruch's Lashon is very parva, yesh mi she'oima. Many Rishonim hold there's no such thing as lighting early. There's man shkia, you can't light plag. Plag is not laila. Also, there are shittas that hold even if you want to rely on the plaga mincha, you don't make a bracha. It's a b'diavad gizman. It's really like a layaway plan. You light early, you put enough oil that burns into the night. Now, Mishnah Berurah does say that you can make a bracha on plaga mincha, but it's very hard to accept that every yid, since the mitzvah was given, is lighting a b'diavad, a yesh mi she'oima on Erev Shabbos, and it's a suffix you make a bracha. Doesn't sound right. So I'm going to tell you a fascinating Trumas Hadeshin in Aleph Reish Samach Tes. He has a question, nothing to do with Chanukah. Someone's Pidyon HaBen day came out on Shabbos, and we can't make a Pidyon HaBen on Shabbos. So this fellow wanted to keep it Bisman. So he had a brilliant Einfall. He's going to do the Pidyon HaBen on Friday, with all the pictures, of course, that's the Yikah. And then he's going to say that the Kinyan should be Chal on Shabbos. So he didn't violate Shabbos, he made it on Friday, but the Pidyon was Chal on Shabbos, Bismanoi. V'tzivanu. How could you say V'tzivanu on Friday? It's not yet the Zman of Pidyon HaBen. So he wanted to compare it to Ner Chanukah on Erev Shabbos. Listen to an Einfall. The minig is we light very early Friday afternoon. It's before the Zman. Must be you do the mitzvah now, and it takes effect later. So too, Pidyon HaBen. Says the Trumas Hadeshin, I don't get that. Chanukah, it's efshe be'inyan acher. We have to light early. So therefore we say b'tzivanu. But Pidyon HaBen, what's your problem? Wait till Sunday. Motzei Shabbos. And he sends you to an early yeshuva of his in Siman Kuf Beis. But there he uses a very crucial word. There he's discussing, as we'll soon see, if you lit it Friday in your Zman, 4 o'clock, before 4 even, and the wind blew it out. You ever think about that? Do we say kafsa zakukla? Because you lit very early? So he says, no, you didn't light early. You lit bisman. It's early. So he says this is considered a hechshe mitzvah, and you're allowed to light and make a bracha during the zman of hechshe mitzvah. Now, this is a very crucial word. What he's saying is when we're going to light this coming Friday, Erev Shabbos Chanukah, at 4 o'clock or whatever time you light, it's a hechshe mitzvah. Now, Rabbi Chanan in Kaivat Za'ar Siman Yud Gimel says this is not the hechshe mitzvah like, machshirei mila, making an ismail for the mila. This is like a person that cooks a meal for his father, even though the mitzvah culminates when the father eats it. But what's the ma'aseh mitzvah? Cooking for the father. So the Trumas Hadeshin is saying that the ma'aseh mitzvah, the hechshe mitzvah, is 4 o'clock or whenever you light. But Pidyon HaBen, it's too early. So that gives a little more meaning to the Erev Shabbos man. Since it's efshe ba'ofen acher, we'll rely on it being hechshe mitzvah, and you make a bracha on hechshe mitzvah. So that comes out, it's a little like sad, that throughout the world, every year since Chanukah was given, we're lighting a zman that's a hechshe mitzvah, not the proper time, but you have to do it. L'chayra, what makes sense is to say something much more powerful. And that is, the Chashmonaim, when they made 8 days Chanukah, they realized that there's always going to be an Erev Shabbos. So what were they thinking? That every Yid, Mikan L'Haba, is doing a B'diavad Hechshe Mitzvah Efsha? Zog Tichsam Seifa, in Chelik Vav, Siman Zayin and the Chuvas, and he was also asked, ironically, about a Pidyon HaBen, but this is even a bigger problem, because the baby's Yom Lamed Aleph came out the first day Sukkot, Thursday, Tes Vav Tishrei. So if you don't do it on Thursday, you have to wait until Sunday. You're going to push it off almost, 3 days. So the Shoyl had the Einfall to make it earlier, that Einfall, the layaway plan. And he also compared it to Ner Chanukah. So Chassam Sofer, the demon is no good. Because he says, Ner Chanukah, and I quote his Lashon, he says, although the Trumas Hadeshen says it's a din of Hechshe Mitzvah, I don't know why you have to come onto this Doichik. Because since it's Efshe Chanukah without an Erev Shabbos Chanukah, Meikara Hachi Tiknu, the Chashmonoim U'Mesakin, Liazmanad Lakasa Koidem Alayla, B'Shayach B'Tzivanu, Shei Metzaknin Kain Tziva Meikara, the mitzvah on Erev Shabbos, since its inception, was to light as soon as you can before Shkia. You have to leave time for the Noshim to light Ner Shabbos, of course. But Zog Tichsam Soifa, Meikara Tiknu on Erev Shabbos, this man is much earlier. So he's saying you don't have to come on to an Efsha, a Hechshe Mitzvah. That is the proper Lechatchila Dikizman. Beautiful Einfall, beautiful insight. It's not what but the Eved Yidin since the mitzvah was given. This is the original Zman. And I found the Chidah in Birkei Yosef and Metaf Reish Ayin Beis was mechavan to the same idea. Someone asked him, like the Rambam that holds you can't rely on Plaga Mincha, the Mechaber does not pass like the Rambam. The Rambam holds you're not allowed light from Plaga Mincha, you have to wait till Tishka Chama. So what does the Rambam do with Erev Shabbos Chanukah? So he says, like Koshamidi, because Miroish Mikedam Tikkun Rabbanon, 8 days of Chanukah, you have to have a Erev Shabbos Chanukah, must be that the Zman Erev Shabbos is always much earlier. So it's very relieving, very reassuring. 1 or 2 days a year of Chanukah could be Erev Shabbos Chanukah. And that's not the B'diavad Hechshe Mitzvah, that's the correct Zman. That's the Dava B'itoy. So now we have the following, that basically the Zmanim have to be kept, whatever your Zman is, keep the Zmanim. Erev Shabbos, and we'll soon see Motzei Shabbos also, has its own Zman. Now let's apply this Lemaisa and sit back and enjoy. Let's start with an interesting Shaila. Erev Shabbos, 1 year, comes out occasionally that Chanukah is Chof Hei Kislev, Chanukah is Shabbos. So that's when you have 2 Shabbos is Chanukah. So someone lights, his wife likes to light Ner Shabbos at 4 o'clock. Okay, so we'll soon see Shalom Bayis is important. He'll light 10 to 4. And he starts thinking, I'm going to make a Shechianu at 10 to 4. It's Chav Dalet Kislev, Vadayoim, no Shaykhis to Chav Hei. How can I Shechianu Lazman Hazeh? It's not yet Chanukah. You'll say Tosefes Chanukah. There's no such thing. I'm sorry. I told the Bachim if there would be Tosefes Chanukah, there would be Tosefes Purim, and you probably would make Tosefes Purim starting from Chanukah. But there is no Tosefes Purim or Chanukah. So how could you say Shechianu? The teretz is you're making a Shechianu on the Ma'aseh Mitzvah. When is the Chiyuv on Shabbos Chanukah, which is Chaf Hei Kislev? Chav Dalet at 4 o'clock or even earlier. So you're making a Shechianu on the Ma'aseh Mitzvah, that's Chal right now. And the Amos says, Chemed in Chanukah Siman Tezayin, he says, Kamat this, he wonders about the Shechianu, and if you'll notice, Loitich Sam Soif is even more Mosik Midvash. Question, someone lit Ner Chanukah, we'll all do it this coming Friday, let's say 4 o'clock, whatever time close to that. The question is it Asabana right then and there? Because you might reason, it's not yet Chanukah, it's not yet Tizman. I'm doing it sort of in advance, like, a layaway plan. I'm programming it it should be there for the right time. But the answer is Chas v'Shalom. This is the right time. Varaya, the Pri Megadim and Tafrei Shayin Beis in the beginning says, let's say a person is onus and he has to light from Plaga Mincha on a weekday. So he lights with a bracha. Is it Asa B'Hana? Zok the Pri Megadim, yes. So we're going to say Madach on Plaga Mincha, which is not even so L'chal Adayis. It's Asa B'Hana. Kolshka in Erev Shabbos Chanukah is Avada Asa B'Hana as soon as you light it. Question. Someone asked the Minchas Alazan, Chelik Beis, Sivan Chavtes. He had an idea. He said, really, we should say Haneris Halolu right after you light Neris. Some even say it as they're lighting. But he felt that maybe it's still early. So he had a minig that he had, B'Shem God Lechad, he writes, that he sang Haneris Halolu as soon as he came home from shul. I guess before Shalom Aleichem, because he wanted to sing it or say it when the neiros are burning bismana. So the Minchas Loza said, I don't like that for a few reasons. First of all, when you lit it Erev Shabbos, it was the right zman. What's we're going to say in Erev Shabbos then? And we would add, and of course, Leitach Sam Seifa, it's even more pashit. You say it in the right time. Don't feel guilty. And then he says, Varaya, as we'll soon see, the Trumas Hadeshen says, if you lit it at 4 o'clock and it went out, Kafsa Ein Zakukla. So you did a real mitzvah. Well, what are you feeling guilty? Like you did something inappropriate? And he says, Enechana, and plus the fact we make Shechianu when it comes out on Erev Shabbos, Erev Chanukah. And he says, plus Ner Chanukah, Al Pi Kabbalah is supposed to be first, and then Ner Shabbos. And then he said, which is probably his main taina, Chodesh Asim in HaTorah. Don't start with the Nayim and Hagim. You're not the first Yid in Yiddishkeit. You know, you had Tanoim and Amoraim before you, and no one thought of this idea. So, Moichel Toivis. But the truth is, it's a Gezunta Havana. When we light Erev Shabbos early, we're not doing B'di'eveds. This is the right Zman. So do it right. Don't forget what we sing, the Haneres Halalu, the Makar is from Masech T'Soy from Perek Chaf. Goes back to the time of Tanoim. So why is it detach that from the Ma'aseh mitzvah? Ma'aseh Shahaya, a young couple where they live locally, and the parents live locally, they didn't have to travel. So what they did is they lit their Chanukah and their Shabbos at home, went to eat by the parents, and they came home. When they came home, to their great dismay, the Ner Shabbos was still burning, so that was great. They had enough of the Neris on Shabbos, but the Ner Chanukah already burnt out. And they were concerned, maybe they want Yoytze the mitzvah. So the truth is that if the Ner Shabbos burnt out before they came home, and they never had a Nah from the Ner Shabbos on Shabbos, they left very early, it's a problem. But for Ner Chanukah, Adarabah, Ein Lana Rishus L'Shtamish B'hem. You lit Bisman, right? Just like a person lit Bisman and it blew out right away, you Yoytze. So if you hear, even better. You lit Bisman and you went away. What's the problem? And Takidol Hayras Nasan Chelik Vav Simem Gimel says this. He says, what's the problem? But we would add Leitach Sam Seifa, it's even more Gishmak. You lit it Bisman. Who said you have to have a no? As long as you lit it Bisman, the fact that you left the house has no impact on the Shaila. I should please to realize this. Leaving a house just with Ner Shabbos or Ner Chanukah burning, make sure it's very safe. I know my eyes saw a house burning down. I lived at one of the homes right next to my house on Shabbos Chanukah. They lit Ner Chanukah, they left, and they came back, the house had burnt down. It's unfortunate, it happens too often. We have to be much more attentive to this problem. You light Ner Shabbos, usually it's safe. Ner Chanukah has to have the same focus of safety. Question: a person lit Ner Shabbos, Ner Chanukah, and it was blown out right before Shabbos. The wife is home alone. The husband went to shul already. Do you have to call someone to relight it? After all, it's still not Shabbos. We could get someone else to light it. Do we say kafsas ein zakukla regarding Erev Shabbos? So this is not surprising. This we had a Trumas Hadeshen, who says even regarding Ner Chanukah on Erev Shabbos, Kafsa Ein Zakukla. And the Shulchan Aruch and Tafresh Ayin Gimel Si Beis paskins like this Trumas Hadeshen. Okay, I should add the Marshal and the Tshuvan Pei Hey, and all the Paiskim Taz Magen Avraham Mishtabur HaShulchan quote this Marshal, that even on a weekday, and even though La Halacha it's Klar Kafsa Ein Zakukla, it's a hiddah to relight it, because you're adding more Pesumei Nisa. So we'll say L'chayra, if it went out Erev Shabbos, Kafsa Ein Zakukla, but it's a mile to relight it. But I must tell you, there's a little more to this question. The Taz in Sivkot and Tes, after he quotes a Mechaber Trumas Hadeshen, says a novel Chiddush. And he says, it's true. When you light Erev Shabbos, you were Yoytze. Why? Because this man is now for later. But Zok the Taz, but let's say that candle went out. So that candle never could be now for later. The reason why Yoytze, if you light early, is because it's going to light into the night. But if it went out, there's no into the night. So the Taz says something incredible. If you lit Bisman, Mamish, Kaf Sein Zakukla, you don't have to relight it. It's only a hiddah. But if you lit it Erev Shabbos, and the reason why you yaitz because it went into the night, well, soon you have to have enough oil to light into the night, and this didn't, then lalacha kafsu zakuk la. You're not yaitz unless you relight it. And this is quoted by all the mainstream poskim, the Bach, Magen Avram, Pri Megadim, Mishnah Berurah, all say the same yesod. Now, according to the Taz, it's not a hiddah to relight it, it's an ikadin, because this didn't end up lighting into the Laila. Now, we would wonder, according to Chassam Sofer, is that true? Because according to Chassam Sofer, you were yaitz to the mitzvah fully, and that went out. But Lamaisa, I must tell you that although the Magen Avram, Taz, Bach, Pri Megadim, Mishnah Berurah say if it went out Erev Shabbos, you have to relight it. But don't forget, the Mechaber calls the Trumas Hadeshim, that you yaitz. So we would say the following: if the man is still home, Avada should relight it. If she could get someone else to relight it, a man that didn't yet Makabel Shabbos, it's Kedai. But for her to go light it after she lit Ner Shabbos is wrong. So what would you do? You could nothing. What could you do? You can't relight it. It's Fafala. A big question is for us that we light early Erev Shabbos, how much oil or how many candles, how big of the candle does it have to be to make a bracha? So you'll say, come on, be a sport, use a lot of oil, big candle, that's very nice, but I've heard this more than once. People have, older people have their Einikah coming for Shabbos, and they have 20 menorahs burning, they're very nervous, It's Erev Shabbos, kids running around, so many menorahs, they'd rather have the children lighting the small half-hour candles and fertig. But, for the nervin of the grandmothers, it's not good for them. So what's the halacha l'maisa? You want to be machmir? Fine. Halacha l'maisa, how much oil, how big a candle does it have to be? So l'chayra, if we understand that the hadlokas ner erev Shabbos is similar to plaga mincha, the Shulchan Aruch says beferish, you're allowed to light from plag, but you have to put enough oil that will burn into the night. And this is mefurish in Shulchan Aruch regarding plaga mincha. So the question is the same apply to erev Shabbos? So according to the Trumas Hadeshen that understood that lighting Erev Shabbos is a form of Hechsher Mitzvah, but the Mechuvan is for Laila, so you have to put enough oil to burn into the night. And we could even say, like the Chassam Sofer, you have to put extra oil. The Chassam Sofer was not saying you light it Friday and Friday Friday. You light it now, but the Mechuvan is Friday night. Especially according to the Taz that Kaf Sazakuk on Erev Shabbos, we're comfortable to say, and Takat the Pri Megadim, Maimon Mordechai, Chayodam, and Kitzur Shulchan Aruch all say you must put enough oil that it burns into the night. Now, granted, the Pri Megadim in Tafresh Ayin Beis Sif Katan Aleph says maybe Taka Yoitzi with less, but the Poskim Ashemepiyim Anuchayim say that you have to put enough oil that burns into the night. I did see an incredible chiddush. The Ber Yaakov has a kasha. Very practical question. The Shulchan Aruch speaks about an oinus which comes up, once in a yovel. The person has to light me from plaga mincha. Frek the Ber Yaakov, but Erev Shabbos Chanukah is every year. Why didn't the Shulchan Aruch say regarding Erev Shabbos Chanukah that you have to put enough oil to burn into the night? It's much more common than plag. It's every single Shabbos for every single Yid. So he says a chiddush nifla. That what's the reason we have to burn into the night? People on the street. But based on Rashi and Parshas B'chukoisai, Friday night people are not on the street, so there's no tichle regel min hashuk. So he holds me ikadin. You don't need the late zman on Friday night, and the raya is from the Shulchan Aruch's omission of saying that you should light until then. Okay, a nice chiddush. But as we said, Ashemepiyim Anuchayim, in fact, the Chayodim and the Kitzah both say, if you didn't put enough oil to burn into the night, you're not yoitz even with the Eved. Because even like the Chassam Sofer, this man is now l'chatchila l'mahajin, but the mechuvan is later. Now the emphasis today, the streets are full, even Friday night. But one thing I will say, the Mishnah Berurah does say, if it's difficult to light all of them with a big shear, so like Mishnah Berurah in Tafresh Ayin Tesif Cotton Bays, one candle is enough. And of course, the Kavachayim points out, which candle should you make the bracha on? Of course, on the first one, that should be the big one. So we'll say, Halavai, we all add oil for all the days, for all of the neiris, but if a nervous grandmother is worried about the fire, so let the children light the small ones and one big one to make the bracha on. What is the preferred time to light Ner Chanukah on Erev Shabbos? And this is a tricky question. Should you leave it to the last minute? Could you start by plag? Should you rush? Should you tell the women to light a little later on Erev Shabbos so we could light closer to Shkia? So there are many practical nafkaminas, but it's important to clarify this. So the emes is, l'chayra, we could say, according to the Trumas Hadeshin, that it's only a psa'i efsha hechsha mitzvah, so let's keep close to the Zman. But it maybe makes sense, even according to the Chazam Soifa, it's not like Erev Shabbos, all of a sudden it's Plaga Mincha. The Zman is, I'll tell you what the Zman according to Chazam Soifa, as close you can to Shkia is a Tchil Zman. But who said you could light 3:30? Maybe keep it close to Shkia. Either Chazam Soifa said it's a new Zman. True. The new Zman is the closest time to Shkia, which maintains your Shalom Bayis and don't make people nervous, saying, let's hurry, let's light, push it off, keep the right Zman. So the emes is in Shulchan Aruch, there's no mention of Plaga Mincha. The Shulchan Aruch in Tafresh Ayin Tes says, Beferish, you should light Ner Chanukah and then Ner Shabbos. Rabbi Yankiv Emden, the Merkatziyah, Tafresh Ayin Gimel, the Maschal Afal Gaf, and Rav Sternbach has two tshuvas, Aleph Shin Sadekei and Beis Shin and Beis, and they both say, and a Chanami, it's not lechatchila to light Plaga Mincha. There's no reason for that. Try to keep as close as you can to Shkia. In fact, they say a half hour before Shkia, but not earlier than a half hour before Shkia. The emes is, but today there's a problem. I mean, it's not practical because Baruch Hashem, I say Ach Shadora, and the women don't light 15 or 18 minutes before Shkia. They have minhagim to light even earlier, make more Shabbos. So now the question is, so what are you going to do? Are you going to tell them, no, this Erev Shabbos Chanukah you have to light dafka 10 minutes before Shkia, or 15 minutes? Dr. Moshe and Chelik Dalet Siman Samach Beis, he says, don't change the time of Ner Shabbos. And Rav Moshe says a chiddush, which is similar to the Chasam Soifa and the Birkei Yosef. And he says, since Erev Shabbos no one could light in the proper Zman, because it's too late, so initially Erev Shabbos has its own Zman. So if the Nashim want to light 20, 25 minutes, a half hour before Shkia, that's their Zman for Ner Shabbos. And what do? Follow Shulchan Aruch. You light Ner Chanukah before Ner Shabbos. So 10 to 4 is also good. He says the truth is, once you're not lighting 4:40 or 5:45, doesn't make a difference if it's 4 o'clock or 10 to 4. So Moshe takes the same approach like the Chasam Soifa and the Chidah, that the Zman Erev Shabbos is unique Zman, which is not limited to, of course, the Zmanim. So Lamaisa, that's what I would say. If they have that Hiddur a whole year, keep it Erev Shabbos Chanukah. Don't feel guilty. It's the right Zman for this Erev Shabbos Chanukah. What happens often is the women have a problem here because they want to light, let's say their Zman, 4:15 or 4:10, whatever it is, 4 o'clock, but they have to wait for the men. The man is always delayed. He's a late Mr. So-and-so. And especially in the back of his mind, he says, what's this Mishigas lighting? She has to light 4, I have to light 10 to 4. So she starts saying, no. And he says, I'm coming. He's one of the Yesh Machal Achas man. And what happens? I don't tell you what happens. There goes the Erev Shabbos Shalom Bayis. And it's mamish a tragedy. I'll tell you why. Because the whole Ner Shabbos, state in the Gemara Shabbos, was Niskan for Shalom Bayis. That's one part of the story. But it's more than that. The Gemara says, and the Mechaber has a whole sif, devotes a whole siman, a whole siman, Tov Reish Ayin Ches, that if a person only has one candle, so what should he use it for, Ner Shabbos or Ner Chanukah? Ner Shabbos al Shalom Bayis. That means you b'doicha this all-important mitzvah of Pesumei Nisva for Shalom Bayis. The Rambam puts it very bluntly in the end of Hilchas Chanukah. He says, Sharei Hashem nimchak lasis shalom and ishla ishtay. We erase the Shem Hashem for Bayasoita to keep Shalom Bayis. Zok the Rambam, God la Shalom shekol Torah nitna lasis shalom ba'olam shenema deracha da'cheinoim v'chol nisivayseah shalom. So the Rambam is saying the whole Torah, Masech Yavamis and Masech Kinim and Mishnah Yisrael, all this was given to keep Shalom. So Erev Shabbos, Erev Chanukah, the two superpowers of Shalom Bayis come together. Ner Shabbos and Ner Chanukah. And Punkt, Doik V'Tishkach, that's when the most Machlokes comes out. Because the Satan Shlaf nicht, it's always the shortest day of the year. Don't forget, This time is the shortest Friday of the year. There's the most to do. Their family's coming. So much to do, so little time, and she wants to light early, and he's not so excited about it. So it becomes machlokes l'shem shamayim, as the Mishnah promises, soifer l'skayim. Don't worry, it's good, and everybody's finding Shem. Why should I light so early, and why should I miss Zman? So it's terrible. And they come into Erev Shabbos, the nerves are frazzled, and they're all wound up. Mr. Burr quotes the Pach and Reish Pesif, Cut and Gimel. Be careful, Erev Shabbos, to keep Shalom and keep Av in the house and avoid machlokes. And Punkt Erev Shabbos Chanukah, that's supposed to be full of Shalom Bayis, becomes a potential machlokes. So I guess you realize my point. Be accommodating. Forget about an extra dish. Forget about that hitter. The wife wants to light 10 after 4, light 4 o'clock. But be on time. Please, it's not the time to make a Shalom Bayis issue. The next question, if the wife knows her customer and he's always going to be late, she decides, you know what, I'm going to keep Shalom Bayis. I'm going to have my own idea. She decides to light Ner Shabbos first. Now, you could do what you want. You're on your own. You want to light 4 o'clock, 4:10, I don't care. I'm lighting first. So, of course, the problem is, how could she be Yaitza if for her it's Shabbos already? To light Shabbos b'tanai, that it's not Makabel Shabbos, is wrong. You only allowed to do it b'makam tzarech. What's the tzarech here? Zok the binyan Shloima Vilna and Simon Nun Beis, the taka is a problem. Because she has to be yaitz with his atlaka, and if she can't light, how could she be yaitz with his atlaka? But the emphasis is a pliya, because she's not yaitz with his atlaka like a shliach shladim kamoisei and yesh shliach l'dvar avera. There's no shlichus, it's merishu beisai. And even if you have to come on to shlichus, there's a famous yisod of the Chasam Sofer, also the Beis Meir says this, on Shabbos, even if there's shlichus, but the Isha Shabbos, after the aguf has to be noch. It has to be that you're resting. So even if shlichus works, but doesn't make you chil Shabbos because your aguf is noch. So Taka saw the Pri Yitzchak, he doesn't quote who, but he says, a God Le'echad said that if the wife lit Ner Shabbos, she can't be yaitz with the husband Ner Shabbos. So the Pri Yitzchak Chelik Beisim and Ches de Maschel Oi, that it can't be. There's no din, it's not a din of shlichus that she has to be mechal Shabbos. So Lamaisa, she is yaitz with his, even though she made Shabbos already. But it's not ideal. First of all, Shulchan Aruch says Ner Chanukah goes first, because Pesumei Nisa. The Kavachayim and Sif Cotton Bay says Al Pi Kabbalah Avad. He says it's begomim if you light Ner Shabbos first. And the way he explains, I'm just telling you the words. Ner Chanukah, the Bershom comes down, and Ner Shabbos is all the way up. So once you first have to go down and up, but once you go up the Shabbos, you can't go down for Chanukah, whatever that means. But no doubt about it, it's not the way a Yiddish house should be. That she's frustrated and he's unreliable. Let's make it right. The husband lights. He accommodates her. That's halacha. There's no difference if it's 10 after 4 or 4 o'clock or 10 to 4. So whatever she wants to light a few minutes before, and come into Shabbos the way the Bernstein wants to come into Shabbos. Now, Lamaisa, b'di'evet again, it's unfortunate, but sometimes he's so late, so she comes to the first Ner and she runs out and lights Ner Shabbos. So Mr. Brewer says, as long as one Ner is enough. But Yena Panim, Yena Erev Shabbos, if she has to run out from his lighting to catch this man, let's be organized and be there on time. The question is interesting where this comes Lamaisa in Yerushalayim, because in Yerushalayim the minig is to light Ner Shabbos 40 minutes before Shkia. So that already, some say, well, that's Taka minig, which is beautiful a whole year. But Erev Shabbos, you have to trim the time. So Taka some on Erev Shabbos Chanukah will not light 40 minutes, but some will still keep to this man of 40 minutes. Abar Lebelza was extremely fond of the Erev Shabbos minig Yerushalayim. So basically that we leave it to the Anshe Gedol Yerushalayim. But in America here, with whatever she wants to do, with Dar Cheinoyim, to keep this man, you are Ner Chanukah before her Ner Shabbos. If someone mistakenly lit Ner Chanukah, this coming Friday, Habolenu Toiva, before Plag, so Lamaisa, you're not Yoitza. The Shulchan Aruch and Tafresh Ayin Beis says you're allowed to light Plag, but not before. Now, you might say, well, maybe Erev Shabbos Chanukah has special leniencies and you're allowed to light even before Plag. But that's irrational. There's no reason to say that. And Taka, the Magen Avram says, if you've cut in Beis, you're allowed to light Erev Shabbos earlier, but not before the Plag. And it's even like the Chasam Soifa, it's not like, anywhere, anytime you want. This man was close enough to Shkia that will leave the women enough time to light Ner Shabbos. So this is again the uniqueness of Erev Shabbos Chanukah. This man really depends on the Noshim when they have to light Ner Shabbos a few minutes before. Like I tell people, Zrizus is a big Maila, but Behola is a big Chesaron, especially Erev Shabbos. That's the opposite of Menucha. So do it Bezrizus, but not with Behola. Question. Someone asked this question. Let's say, he knows Erev Shabbos, he's going to light, let's say, 4 o'clock. When is the Issa Chila that's Chal before the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah? There's an Issa a half hour before the Zman. When does the Issa Chila begin? So you might think, well, if you're lighting early, maybe half hour before Plaga Mincha. That's not true. This man is not Plaga Mincha. This man is your Zman. So if you usually light at 4 o'clock, a half hour before the your Zman is the Issa Chila. If someone was really fashlept, Hashem Yirachim, and he missed Shkia, now already it's after Shkia, he didn't light Ner Chanukah. His wife knew her customers, he lit Ner Shabbos, and now he's stuck without Ner Chanukah. So the question is, what could you do? So it has been suggested in Einfall, and that is to call a goy and light Ner Chanukah. Now, what's the point? Because really, as long as it's still Bein Hashmashos, a guy could do even a Halacha D'Oraisa, L'Tzarech Shabbos, and this is a real Tzarech Mitzvah. So a few minutes after Shkia is definitely Bein Hashmashos. But you're saying a guy should light Ner Chanukah, this is unheard of. But then again, let's talk about a case where an Isha was delayed, and it's past Shkia. So that the Magen Avram in Reish Samach Gimel says that as long as it's Bein Hashmash, you could call a guy who will light the Ner Chanukah, the Ner Shabbos for her. The Magen Avram and the Rav in Kuntres Achron explains in detail, not only does it help the guy lighting for the Isha, but the Isha can make a bracha on the guy's hadlaka, because it's a valid hadlaka. Okay, Mr. Bura does not, the Sivkat and Chaval does not like the make a bracha, but all agree that if it's still Bein Hashmash, the guy could be enlisted to light the Ner Shabbos for the woman. So why don't we say who adin Ner Chanukah? And Taka, the Bajana Rav, das Torah's Tafrei Shayin Gimel, Sif Beis, says, Yesh Loima, the Aydei Akum, Yoitzi, the Chavasai regarding Ner Chanukah. But it's hard to accept, and I'll tell you why. Because Ner Shabbos has 3 purposes. Shalom Bayis, Kavod Shabbos, and Oynik Shabbos. So the Ner Shabbos is not the mitzvah is not the hadlaka per se, it's the teitzah, it's the outcome. So if a guy lights, you have Neris, you have Shalom Bayis, Kavod Shabbos, Oynik Shabbos. So that's why a guy's hadlaka helps, and could even make a bracha like the Magen Avram. But Ner Shabbos, Ner Chanukah, we paskin, hadlaka is a mitzvah. It's not to have a Besumei Nisa. If you have an 8-day Yartzai licht, you light it, you're not Yaitza, except for the first day. You have to light it Bisman. So how could the guy light? And you have burning candles, and you could say you have Besumei Nisa, but it's not a Chefetz of an hadlaka. And Reza Pella, I don't know why the Bajana Rav doesn't quote this, the Rambam in Hilchas Chanukah Dalet Tes, Ner Chanukah Hidlik Chershait V'Katan Oigoy Le'Asa Klum. Because fundamentally, Ner Chanukah is a different type of mitzvah. It's a mitzvah hadlaka. So what could I tell you? The Das Torah must have held that if you light in one day for 8 days, there's no Mais hadlaka Bisman. But if you light Bazman through a goy, so maybe as long as it brings Pesumei Nisa, maybe that's hadlaka is the mitzvah the Yaakov. But if the Rambam says not to do it, Avada, it's not an idea. Question, an Isha that's living alone. She has no husband, and she has 2 mitzvahs, Erev Shabbos, Ner Chanukah, and Ner Shabbos. What's the order of these mitzvahs? So that's simple. For her is no shaila. Ner Chanukah has to go first. Besides the fact that Pesumei Nisa is more important, but she has to be Mekabel Shabbos with the Ner Shabbos, so that's question. A man that's living alone, and he has to light Ner Chanukah and Ner Shabbos, what's the order for him? So we might say, Ner Shabbos is Tadir. But then again, Ner Chanukah is Pesumei Nisa. And Taka the Shulchan Aruch, in Tafrei Shayin Tes, Aleph, Ber Shabbos, Madlikin Ner Chanukah, Tchil V'Achkach Ner Shabbos. Now you look in the Mishnah Berurah, the main reason seems to be because Ner Shabbos is Shabbos, So you can't light Ner Chanukah afterwards. And I saw the Mekadesh Yisrael in Reish Nun Zayin he quotes a Yosef Oymitz and a Noyek Hatzayin Yosef that both say, let's say it's a man that's lighting and he typically does not Mekabel Shabbos when he lights Ner Shabbos, he should light Ner Shabbos first because it's Tadir. And then Ner Chanukah. He's not keeping Shabbos, he's driving to Shul. But the Chiddush is that the Lamaisa, as we saw earlier, Al Pi Kabbalah, Ner Chanukah always has to go before Ner Shabbos. And also, once they were masakin it, the concept of Pesumei Nisa, and Taka, most Paiskim seem to say that even in this case, a man that's lighting has not been Makabel Shabbos, it's Ner Chanukah, and then Ner Shabbos. You might say, let him do Ner Shabbos first, so then he can push off Ner Chanukah closer to Shkia. That's a pretty good cheshbon, but no one says it, so I'm not saying it either. So it's Ner Chanukah, and then Ner Shabbos. Now, a person that woke up, he was resting, and he woke up a minute before the Zman, Shabbos. He can only light one Ner Chanukah or Ner Shabbos. Which goes first? Everybody knows Ner Shabbos first, right? But the truth is, the Magen Avram in Sifkat and Beis already says that today we light for the Bnei HaBayis, so if we light it inside, so even if you light Ner Chanukah, you have enough light, and Ner Chanukah goes first. Plus, some Paiskim, Heintige Paiskim say, I saw this L'Haras Nosson, Rav Sternbach at the Tshuva, and the Shev Kossi say, today we have electric lights at home, there's no problem of Shalom Bayis. So you have a Riach Timtza that Bisman Hazeh, if it's only one Ner, it might be Ner Chanukah. But of course, don't keep it to that, of course not. Interesting Halacha L'Maisa, maybe it's a good business venture, one wants to make money. The Halacha is Ner Chanukah is before Ner Shabbos, Pasha because of Pesumei Nisa. But then again, Tadir Shein Tadir. So the Pri Megadim in Mishpatei Zahav Sifkat and Aleph writes matter-of-factly, don't set up the Ner Shabbos until you finish lighting Ner Chanukah. Why? Because let's say you have the Ner Chanukah over by the window, let's say a door, whatever you do, and you have Ner Shabbos on the table. You should go first to the Ner Shabbos al Tadir. But you have no choice. You have to go to Ner Chanukah. So you end up being Mavi'in ala mitzvahs. So he says, better would be light Ner Chanukah and then set up the Ner Shabbos. So there's no Mavi'in ala mitzvahs. Or he says, listen to this, he says, if you're going to light Ner Chanukah first, you're being Mavayish the Ner Shabbos. It goes first. That's like that we cover the Challah Erev Shabbos before Kiddush, not the Mavayish to pass. Now, Lamaisa, I never saw anybody that prepares the Ner Shabbos first afterwards, maybe because worrying about this man. And Taka, it's a Chiddush. No one does like this Pri Megadim, the Kinyan Torah, Chelik Heisim, and Ayin Heish, tells us on it. But if you want an idea, maybe it's an idea to prepare the Ner Shabbos Taka first and put a nice Shabbos Dika cover over the Ner Shabbos. So then, first of all, there's no busha, and maybe also no emavin if it's covered. So I don't know if people will buy it, but if it's a good idea to market a new product, the Erev Shabbos Chanukah decal for the Ner Shabbos, but again, the Pri Megadim doesn't suggest it, so I'm not going to do it either. But what's really important is the sensitivity, Shalei Levayish the Ner Shabbos, and how about Levayish the wife on Erev Shabbos because of Ner Chanukah or Shabbos? It's certainly not within the framework of Yiddishkeit. Interesting question is the old question about Mincha. What's the Zman of Mincha Erev Shabbos? So there are many early Minyanim. Where's that coming from? So the emes is one, but the Kash is even bigger because by Chassidim, across the board, Kamat, Mincha is regular time. What's the Machlokes? So on a practical level, I would think it's Pashut, because for those that daven Mincha before Shkia, if you're going to daven Mincha the regular time Erev Shabbos, you're going to have to leave 20 plus minutes before Shkia to daven Mincha. So you're going to push up Ner Chanukah extra 20 minutes, right? Then you're going to have Mincha. So then you're going to have Ner Shabbos, Ner Chanukah first. It's going to be much earlier. So practically you daven Mincha, let's say Mincha Gedaylo or 3 o'clock, so you have more time to light closer to Shkia. The Chassidim Shitasam that daven Mincha anyhow, many minutes after Shkia, so Mincha is not part of the equation. So everybody's following their own minig. But the truth is there's much more to this minig. Because let's go back a moment. What's the head to the light, 4 o'clock, 3:30, 3:45, Ner Chanukah? It's still day. Shraga B'tir Mayhani. How are you lighting by day? The teretz is plaga mincha is a zman also. Vikum plaga mincha. Teretz Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah holds plaga mincha is till plaga mincha is mincha and then is ma'ariv. So we find in halacha that plaga mincha and beyond is already laila. Zok the prima godlim mitafresh ayin alasif kat and yud. If you are lighting erev Shabbos before this man, because it's after plag and it's considered laila legabi ner Chanukah, so then you're considering it laila. Very good. How do you go and daven mincha afterwards? Tartar Sasri. What's your location? Laila or mincha? So please this Gavus. He finds a Tartar Sasri in davening mincha after Hadlakas ner Chanukah. And that's the way the Mishnah Berurah in Tafresh Ayin Tes at the end with the Sharatzin explains it. The problem is davening mincha afterwards. Tartar Sasri. Now I must mention that the place who say tak is a gedai to daven mincha, but not be a chidus. It's a minig. It's a good minig. We'll soon see why those don't do it. But even those that do it, and not at the expense of mincha. Rav Ham always used to say, if you're running out to daven mincha and your wife or your mother says, "I need your help. Don't daven mincha now. Give up the minig," because we'll soon see. A big part of Klal Yisrael davens mincha after Hadlakas Neiros. But the kasha is, what about the Tartar Sasri? So the Chayra, Lefi, what we said, it's not a problem at all. When we light Ner Chanukah before Shkia, it's not that we decided that it's considered Laila. But we follow either Chsam Soif or even the Trim Sadeshans, Yisoid, that this man of Ner Chanukah, Erev Shabbos, is when? Before Shkia. So am I identifying it as Laila? I'm identifying it as this man, what the Chsam Soifa says, since the mitzvah was given, that's the right man. So what kind of Tartar Sasri is it? And the truth is, if you think it's Tartar Sasri, what's the heta for the wife to go ahead and light Ner Shabbos after he lit Ner Chanukah and made it Laila? So Malach is worse than davening mincha at Laila. The teretz has to be, it's a newsman. Now I must mention there's another mila in lighting in davening mincha first. This the earlier poskim say, because in Beis Hamikdash the mincha is connected time by Sheben Abayim, and when was the menorah, the avodah menorah? Afterwards. So that's why many people are makbid, which Aga shows that somehow Erev Shabbos in our home it becomes like a Beis Hamikdash, with the menorah being the menorah. So don't make a churban Beis Hamikdash, little shalom bayis issues. But this is another reason they like to daven mincha early, and the Chassidim would go with the Yisoid that not l'chol davar we compare it to Beis Hamikdash, and this would not be different. And the last group of questions is the Matzoi Shabbos. So right away you realize that we have a built-in problem, because every Matzoi Shabbos we can't keep probably any zman. Lo miboy, we don't keep this man of the goyin that was 4:40 and a half hour afterwards is too late. But even if you keep this man of 5:45. So many people daven Ma'ariv first at 5:45 till they get home, until they make Havdalah. So back to another problem, that 1 out of 8 days we are lighting at the wrong time. So no one speaks it out. That's probably Pashit. It's the same Yisoid of either of the Chsam Soifa. Since when the Chashmonaim initiated the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah, they knew there has to be a Matzoi Shabbos. So what is this man? This man is as soon as possible. Bezrizus, not bebehola. So what is the earliest man? So that's taka, whenever you finish Ma'ariv and you finish Havdalah. We'll soon see if you make Havdalah first or not. Now the Ma'aser Rav L'Shitosei in Reish Lamed Zayin, he says to hurry up, because he gave it a half an hour after the man, the earliest man that you could light. So taka groniks are much more mizares, but for most that don't go with the graz minig, it would be as soon as you can after Ma'ariv. Now, let me give you a few pointers regarding this. Someone will say, I want to keep this man l'chatchila, so I'm going to daven Matzoi Shabbos early with the earliest minyan. And they daven, like someone told me, they daven with lights and sirens. I said, what does that mean? He goes, they're running, like, running on a telecall with lights and sirens. And the davening, like, Yeshua Hashem Keherify, but I'll get them earlier. So to be halacha, you're going to daven early to light an Azman that's Safek Laila. Is that Zrizah Magdim al Mitzvahs? So nothing to talk about. We don't light before it's Vadai Ois Shabbos. That's number one. Rav Moshe in same tshuva in Chelik Dal Simon Samach Beis says in a bigger chiddush. If your minig is daven 72, then keep the minig. Even though Rav Moshe in the same tshuva writes that he thinks that Rabbeinu Tam's man in America is 50, but daven 72 and keep yours and go home and then light. Loitich Sam Soifa, I can understand it because the Zman was made the earliest you can do. And my Zman is 72 for Ma'ariv, and I'm coming home, I'm lighting as quick as I can. Now, to rush Ma'ariv, of course, is inappropriate. I saw the Absaya Develitsky writes that he once saw one of the luchais that were given out in Shalayim, that to make it perfect, daven Ma'ariv 23 minutes after Shkia, because in Eretz it's much earlier, and light Ner Chanukah 35 minutes after Shkia. So he writes, oh, thank you. You gave me 12 minutes for Ma'ariv on Motzei Shabbos? What kind of highway robbery is that? 12 minutes for Ma'ariv? So the Ma'ariv can't be abbreviated just to get home earlier. That's not Zriza Magdimim. In fact, I saw Ma'aser Shehoya, Rabbi Lapian used to say Shalshudas Torah, and on Shabbos Chanukah he was no different. Amali went late. So someone told him, this man. He goes, who told you to keep this man on Motzei Shabbos? He felt that this man is as soon as you finish Ma'ariv, go home and light. So the Ma'aser, again, if you could be early, be on time, good. If there's any ikuv, some people when the Baal Tefillah starts to sneeze, they're getting all nervous. Hurry. It's not healthy. They come home and the wife forgot to pair the Havdalah. Oy. It's bringing a tense attitude in the house. That's not the Rachel Dachinoyim. So basically, we're going to say the earliest, the right Zman of Motzei Shabbos is as soon as possible with Zrizas, without Behala, after you finish Ma'ariv and Havdalah. Now, at home, what is the order of the two mitzvahs, Ner Chanukah or Havdalah? So this is an old story, that really Ner Chanukah should go first because of Pesumei Nisa, and that's Taka the minig of the Ramah and Tov Reish Pei Aleph. However, there are reasons to say Havdalah goes first. That's typically Tadir. So Minig Yisrael used to be granted much more that people made Ner Chanukah and then Havdalah. I think it's becoming more popular to make Havdalah first and then Ner Chanukah. What's noteworthy is one of the reasons to make Ner Chanukah first is because you want to delay Havdalah as long as you can to keep Shabbos longer. And the Kasha is a pliya. You daven Ma'ariv without the Antonu. You lit Ner Chanukah, did Malachas Deraisa. What Shabbos do you have? When are you keeping Shabbos? So it says the El Yerabba Adav Anifl in Tov Reish Pei Aleph, the end of Sivkat and Aleph, Adayin Yesh Reach Kedushas Nishma Shabbos Ad Havdalah Alakois. A trace of a Reach of Shabbos until Havdalah. And for that, trace of Shabbos is Kedai to light Ner Chanukah first. And how about a moment of Shabbos, a Heilige Shabbos? There must be a haskell of that. But more than that, what I think really is Kedai to mention a practical eitzah. Let's say your minhag is to make Havdalah first. So come home from Shul Taka, prepare the Neiris Chanukah. Ready? You said, no problem. And then make Havdalah and right away Ner Shabbos. Then right away Ner Chanukah. This way you kept more of the Reach Shabbos as much as you can. You don't want to change your minhag, you want to make Havdalah first. But you come home from Shul, prepare the Neiris of Chanukah, whatever's needed, then Havdalah, and then Ner Chanukah. But let's be clear, the Zman is as soon as possible with, Zriz is not Behola. It's not Kedai to come home and bring it at a tense feeling because it generates a certain lack of Shalom Bayis. Different question, which is also Kedai to mention, it's also a Shabbos Chanukah question. The Gabbai lights Motzei Shabbos in Shul, like every other night. But he realizes that the shul after Ma'ariv Motzei Shabbos is probably one of the emptiest times of the year. Because everybody's running home to light Ner Chanukah. Now, during the week, some lit before Ma'ariv, so you could have some people remaining. But Motzei Shabbos, after Ma'ariv, there's no one there. So the question is, what's your heter to light with a bracha, and then you're going to leave? No one's there. And if you're going to blow out the candles, it's even worse. And Taka, some poskim say, if you're not going to leave it burn for half hour, you're not allowed to make a bracha on it, Motzei Shabbos. But Rav Sternbuch Chelik Dal Kuf Ayin Aleph says a nice yisoid, and he basically says that since in shul it's a different mitzvah al Pesumei Nisa, and built into the Motzei Shabbos no one's there, you're allowed to make a bracha and then you put it out, which is really the same yisoid that we began with. It's a different zman ha-mitzvah, a different ma'isa mitzvah. The Shevet Alevi and Ches Kuf and Vav Taka said beferish. If it's a question of safety, avada, light it with the bracha and blow it out. And we have an old minig. We give the oil a little bit of something to Zevach Mishpacha, talk about on Ner Chanukah, I'm going to give you just 4 quick hours to think about. Question number 1: the Gabe comes to shul this coming Friday, and as always for Erev Shabbos, close to the Shkia, the shul is deserted. Mamanasha. Those that daven mincha earlier are not coming before Shkia. Chassidim are coming 20 minutes later. The kitzah, it's the emptiest time of the year. He wants to make a bracha, like he does every day, because he's the one that lights in shul. He starts to think, I'm making a bracha on what? I made a bracha in my house. I lit on my house. Navas, shul has pesumei nisa. For who? For the walls? For the shechina? Like, who are making a bracha on? So can you make a bracha when the shul is empty and no one's there? So Taka, there are poskim that says, if there's no one there, b'shas mais, you can't make a bracha on the adlokas erev Shabbos in shul. But the Magen Avram, Tafrei Shayin Aleph, Sivkat Yud, and Chayod, the Mishnah quote this: as long as there are people coming soon enough, you're allowed to make a bracha. Ve'im taima, how do you say a bracha now for later? Now there's nothing. Zakta Marshag and Beis, Kufay and Beis are golden Yisoid. Every Erev Shabbos, we do just that. We make a bracha, we light now for later. So why can the Gabai in the shul use the same heta that Erev Shabbos is a different mitzvah? So you see, again, our Yisoid replaying itself regarding the Gabai's lighting. For those that make Havdalah first and then their Chanukah, you have 2 questions. Someone asked me, interesting questions. How can you drink the wine of Havdalah before their Chanukah? Now that I eat or drink before a mitzvah. So Pash, you'll say, if you drink only a lugmav, so there's no shaila. But even a reviyas is still not a kviyas. And also, it's a shtiyah shel mitzvah. So that's not a problem. What the poskim discuss, believe it or not, after you finish your reviyas and you go to Ner Chanukah, what goes first? Ner Chanukah or ala gefen? So that they want to say in Svara, you should Ner Chanukah goes first because it's reason makdimin. But how do you walk away from a chiyuv of ala gefen? You might forget. So the minig is to make an ala gefen. But last but not least, this is really fascinating. Let's imagine that Shabbos is the first day of Chanukah. Chaf Hey Kislev is Shabbos Chanukah. So a person, his minig is he always daven mincha bisman. He doesn't daven early. Okay, wonderful. We saw the minig is sanctioned by poskim. But this year might be a problem because let's replay this. Chaf Dalet Kislev, you're at home and you light Ner Chanukah and you make 3 brachas, including Shechiyanu. Then you come to shul, you daven mincha and Yozman. Will you say Al Anisim in that mincha? Because since you said Shechiyanu Lazman Hazeh and you were Makabel L'chayra Chanukah, how can you not say Al Anisim? And Zoktab Shloim Zalman, Taka, even if your minig is daven mincha bisman every Erev Shabbos Chanukah, when it comes out the first day Shabbos, you must daven mincha first. And Taka, some Chassidim, including Taka Kal and Stalin, when it comes out Chaf Pei Kislev on Shabbos, they will daven mincha earlier before Ner Chanukah. But most Chassidim don't keep that minig, and I think that's as far as Pashit. Because again, the Shechiyanu is not on the Yom Tov, it's on the Ma'aseh Mitzvah, and that's Chal now, and Shechiyanu is on the Mitzvah, not on the Yom Tov. Good to talk to you all. If anybody's interested, we put out a new book, it's for sale in the back, the new book on the Halacha, we have it in there.
Hashem Yigin Shitelak Gebek Shakar of Smith for today's shir. The new sefer of Smith gave out. It's available on the table for $20 in the center of shul. After the Kaddish, there's Hashem be Smith Sikkim on today's shir. Chananya ben Akashem Rotzakadosh Baruch Hu Zakes Es Yisrael. Figure Hebron Torah Mitzvah Shenem Al Noy Chofes Aman Tzidke Yagdol Terviyade.
Amen.
Square they daven early.
Mincha. Every episode.
Every.
Oh yeah, taka.
And we got noch some more sin and then they go home.
Square much earlier.
When did they light?
Every
Afterwards.
After
And then also
and the Rebbe sits the shoots up with the left.
And then also they do their whatever. Oh, they come like 4 or 5, whatever. Just everything starts earlier. The Rebbe lights very early, I say.
Not early.
Schuhe sitzt mit der... Darf seine Schuhe mit den Neighbors?
Ja, ja.
Wow.
Yosef's daughter became
Ooh. You're getting younger.
Talk soon. We're saying, he's saying a summary now.
Okay, just give me some. Oh, okay. Chelik Vav Simon Zion. You know Chelik Vav is the end, the last.
Okay. Rabbi say we don't want to be mavayish. There's sikkim, so we're starting right away. Shh. Okay.
Just what we learned today, Bez Hashem, as we saw, I think the yesod of today is that the Erev Shabbos and the Motzei Shabbos has a different zman to it, even though it's the same mitzvah. But since every Chanukah has Shabbos as one day, sometimes even you have 2 Shabbos Chanukah, it must be the zman is different, both Erev Shabbos and Motzei Shabbos. The zman is as soon as possible with zrizos, not behola. Erev Shabbos, try to keep it as close as you can to Shkia when it won't interfere with the, of course, the Shalom Bayis. Motzei Shabbos, as soon as you finish Geshmak HaMayriv and come home, and then Avdallah first or not, depending on Minhagim. A Shechiyanu could be said Erev Shabbos, Erev Chanukah, even though it's not yet Chanukah, because it's still the mitzvah, the Shechiyanu is going on the Maisa mitzvah. The Issa Hanoah and it is starting as soon as you lit the Neiros, obviously, even though it's early Erev Shabbos. We say a Neiros Lolo right away, don't wait till later, because it's now is the Zman, now is the mitzvah. You could light Bizman and leave the house Erev Shabbos, if it's safe, of course, and you don't have to be there, as long as you lit sometime, of course, in the right time, sometime before the Shkia. Kafsa Eina Zakakla is always the halacha, but it's kedai to relight it. But we did say that if Erev Shabbos it went out and it's still time to relight it, like many shitas, kafsa zakakla, he should light it a second time. You must put in, I should say, enough oil that it should burn until the end of the regular zman. If you want to keep it just to one big nair, that's also good, but there has to be enough oil to burn until the regular zman. We should be accommodating for at home. The Ner Chanukah is Shalom Bayis, Ner Shabbos is Shalom Bayis, and never bring out tension in these 2 heilige mitzvahs when they two coincide. The Isha, the ones light a little earlier, before the 18 or 15 minutes, it's fine, and work accordingly. Never light before Plag, even Erev Shabbos. It's probably not even good, even B'di'eved. There's an Issa Chila a half hour before the anticipated time of your lighting. After Shkia, never light, even if it's a minute after Shkia through a Yid. To ask a guy is a tzarachi in Gadol. If you want to do it, you could do it, but zicher without a bracha. To the main Ner Chanukah, of course, what we do, the Ner Chanukah, is to do it Bizman, and Pashit Erev Shabbos has to be a different Zman. The Pri Megadim says to keep the Ner Shabbos either in a different room or set it up afterwards. But it seems that's not the minig. I'm not sure why, but it may be takas akadai to, if you can, to cover it, but I haven't found that minig. There are different minhagim regarding mincha before. Motzei Shabbos has its own zman, ASAP, without behala, that is, not to Rosh Hashanah. I forgot to mention, I wondered why we don't make a minig that would satisfy all problems, and that is, if you're home for Shalosh Seudos, wait till the zman, say Baruch HaMavdil, even make Havdalah, and then light Ner Chanukah, and then go to shul, have a Ma'ariv later. So it's not done, but someone told me the minig of Ger is to do that, and I understand why. This way you could keep the closer to the actual zman of Motzei Shabbos. At home, the Halacha says what goes first, Chanukah or Havdalah, the Ovid Kamar Ovid, the Ovid Kamar Ovid. Lighting in Beis HaMedrash on Motzei Shabbos, if need be, you're allowed to blow it out, even though it's not a half hour. Lighting Erev Shabbos, you're allowed to make with a bracha, even though the shul is empty. You're allowed to drink the wine and make an alagefen before Havdalah. And as we said, Erev Shabbos, Erev Chanukah, although there's a good reason to daven mincha first, but it's not ma'akiv because the Shechianu was on the Yom Tov.